What happened when your husband tried to control you? I was reading an article about climate change at breakfast when my husband slammed his coffee cup down. Would you stop trying to be so woke already? He shouted while our 3 teenage sons burst out laughing. Nobody cares about your liberal bullcrap. Maybe focus on being a wife and mother instead of pretending you understand politics. My oldest son said through his laughter, "Yeah, Mom, you're embarrassing. Tyler's mom doesn't act like she knows everything." My middle son added, "Tyler's mom is normal. She doesn't lecture everyone about recycling and pronouns and whatever." I said quietly, "I'm just trying to stay informed." My husband snorted and said, "Informed? You're brainwashed by all that woke garbage. I liked you better when you didn't have opinions. Life was simpler when women knew their place and men could be men without apologizing for it." The boys high-fived him and said in unison, "Based, Dad." I set down my phone and said, "You're right. I'll stop being woke immediately." The next morning, I threw out my husband's medications. I announced, "Your blood pressure pills, your anxiety meds, your back pain medication, all gone. Modern medicine is just liberal propaganda. Traditional men tough it out." He protested. "Those are prescribed." I said, "By a female doctor. We can't trust that. I made you an appointment with the only male doctor I could find. He's 3 hours away and doesn't take our insurance, but at least he's traditional." I pulled the boys out of sex ed in any class with female teachers. I explained, "Can't have you being corrupted by progressive ideas. You'll take shop class and gym only. The rest is indoctrination." My oldest protested, "But I need chemistry to graduate." I said, "The chemistry teacher is a woman. That's unnatural. Women shouldn't be teaching men." I also called my husband's job and said, "My husband needs accommodations for his back pain. That's victim mentality. Real men work through pain. Please make sure you don't give him any special treatment." When his boss called about it, he yelled, "Are you insane?" I said, "Really? You want a participation trophy for doing your job?" When my middle son got injured at football practice, I made him wait. I said, "Traditional men walk it off first. We'll go to the doctor, but only the male one 3 hours away. We leave at 4 a.m. tomorrow." He begged, "Can't we just go to urgent care?" I said, "Run by a female nurse practitioner. That's progressive nonsense." My youngest complained about being hungry after I served them plain beans and bread for the 5th day straight. I explained, "Seasoning is multicultural influence. Traditional American food is bland and simple. We wouldn't want to taste anything ethnic. Also, I can't work anymore since women shouldn't have careers. So this is what our single income affords now." My oldest asked confused, "Mom worked?" I said, "Of course not. I called my boss and quit. Traditional families have one provider. Your father's salary alone should be enough if he's a real man." My husband went pale and said, "We can't afford the mortgage on just my salary." I said, "Then you should work harder, unless you need a woman's help." When my oldest tried to text his girlfriend, I took his phone and said, "Traditional courtship means you visit her in person with her father's permission, and I chaperone." He said, "That's insane." I said, "That's traditional. I already called her parents and explained. They think you're weird now and said you can't see her." His brothers laughed until I added, "Same rules for all of you." I stopped driving them anywhere and said, "Women driving is a modern invention. You'll have to walk or wait for your father." My middle son protested, "Soccer practice is 10 miles away." I said, "Better start walking or quit. Sports that include girls are too progressive anyway." When my husband got strep throat, I gave him honey and prayer and said, "Antibiotics are big pharma trying to control us. Traditional healing only." He tried to drive himself to urgent care, but I'd hidden the car keys and said, "That female doctor isn't appropriate. The male doctor can see you next Thursday." I'd also canceled our insurance and explained, "Insurance is socialist garbage. Traditional men pay cash." The school called about the boys' schedules, the bank called about missed mortgage payments, and my husband's boss called about his erratic behavior since going off his medications while the boys had no social lives and ate beans every night. My husband finally begged with dark circles under his eyes, "Please, I was wrong. Be woke. Be anything. Just stop this." I asked innocently, "Stop what?" "I'm just being the traditional wife you wanted. Unless you're saying women should have equal say in decisions." He said, "Yes, equal. More than equal. Whatever you want." I smiled and pulled out my laptop and said, "Good. Then you'll support me running for school board to fight for comprehensive sex education?" They all nodded frantically. I asked, "And you'll volunteer for my campaign?" More desperate nodding. I said, "Perfect, because I already filed the paperwork." My opponent is Tyler's mom, the normal one. I showed them her campaign website full of book banning promises and anti-vaccine rhetoric and said, "She's leading in the polls." My husband's face went white while the boys looked horrified. I said calmly, "If she wins, her policies become mandatory for the whole district. Every student will live like you've been living." My oldest whispered, "We have to stop her." I handed them voter registration forms and looked my husband in the eye and said, "Better hope we win. She's also running on a platform of banning all modern medicine from the district, including your blood pressure medication." Full story on the channel below.